Okay, we're live.
Oh, welcome everybody to another riveting episode of Own Your Agents, where me and Joseph talk about all the agentic things that are happening. We talk about some news, we talk about some opinions, the highs, the lows, the concerns, the excitement. So it's going to be an hour. We've got a special guest. Before we jump in, I'll do a little intro. I'm Douglas. I come from more of a design and product background. I'm so excited about the future of how agents are going to help us across all aspects of our life, from work to play, and how ultimately we can use technology to bring out the best of our humanity while handing off the worst parts to the robots. That is the mission for everything I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find out more about me at projectfresh.com and my recently vibe coded app, Team Central, that helps teams work together in some fun ways. And I'm sure we'll have some other fun projects to talk about in a little bit. But with that, I'll hand it over to you, Joseph.
Hi, yeah, and I'm Joseph. I do trustedrouter.com, which is your one-stop shop for any size and shape token that you want. Super fast, always uptime, and really, really good. And I have a special guest here, Henri Rousset. He was at OpenAI early on a few years ago, and he's knows about all the AI business, so we can ask some questions about as well.
Exciting. Well,
Yeah.
guys, maybe we can start with top of mind. What since last week, any agentic things that have been crossing your desk? Anything that you've either been working on or any news that you think is of note? We probably have some ideas.
I do. I have something cool. I was working with a friend of mine who's built a cryptocurrency, and I'd never built a cryptocurrency before, but a few of my friends have, and he needed help with something. So I have been using some agents and Kimi K3, GLM 5.2, and my new harness, Quill Cowork, to build out some of the new multi-sig features in the cryptocurrency. And I thought it
Hmm.
is pretty complicated. Let's make sure we can mathematically prove that it works. So we wrote the proofs in TLA plus, and that's all in a PR. And it's pretty amazing. I've never written TLA plus, so it's pretty cool that it's
So
writing
for
just
those less technical here that like to watch the ramifications of what distilled down into why this blew your mind, which is a pretty hard, big mind to blow. Tell us.
I think cryptocurrency code is pretty complicated to write and pretty tricky. And it's I mean, this guy's an expert in AI and also this cryptocurrency, and he couldn't do this. But by using my harness and these tokens and these OSS models, is able to like create something new that's never been done before on this cryptocurrency. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I feel like when you know, every time we get on here, we kind of shared things that like blow each other's minds, and I'm always like, you have technical skills that like I'm always wowed by. So whenever your eyes light up, I'm always like, oh, this has got to be something important. Watch this space. But there were some very interesting things, that happened this week. I think before we get into it, Henri, it's great to have you here. Would love
Thanks
to
for having me.
get a little bit of your background and also what blew your mind this week, anything agentic or otherwise.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. So as I was saying, Joseph, earlier, like when we went for coffee, like my background's been partly in tech, partly in cybersecurity. And first time I stepped foot in the US soil was on my way to DEF CON. That just ended like yesterday or like a couple days ago, right, in Vegas. So I remember that was like what, like 15 years ago or something. And it seems like, it's like cybersecurity is like very relevant these days, right? I think like just in the past few days, in the past week, we've seen some interesting security events. Started with like OpenAI and Hugging Face, the joint announcement that like a model had just like escaped and started like penetrating the Hugging Face systems, and then Anthropic realized that they also had the same thing, and then we're starting to see like hacks at a pretty big scale. One of them, for example, was what is the name of the Bitcoin Bitcoin wallets the Bitcoin, the wallet hardware that generated like your wallet, and like you could like transfer your Bitcoins to that wallet, and they found a flaw in the random number generator that basically like made the private keys like deterministic, right? Or
They thought it was
like,
random, but it wasn't.
right, it's the entropy like significantly, so that you could potentially like generate all of the different private keys, and there's a JavaScript library that is used, like that has like like hundreds of thousands of downloads like every month, that apparently is not that random. And so it's going to be interesting to see like where the focus goes, and like what are the real world impact of this kind of
it's kind of like get random number and it returns 6 every time.
Right.
Oh my God.
Like, how do you know?
I mean, this is the thing, like everyone, and we talk about this a lot, like the putting the power out there. The bad actors are going to get it. You got to put the power also in the hands of the people that can fix things and protect things, that can fix their systems, check their systems. One of the biggest issues that's come over, this last month especially, is like systems wanting to check their own, or admins or developers wanting to check their own code, their own systems, and being limited, like to protect from these powers that are coming out, these powerful, agentic AIs and these models and these bad actors. And just like what happened with Hugging Face, because so from what I understand is that there was these tests going on that OpenAI was running to go and do something. They had this goal, and it couldn't do it, and it found a back door, and it innocently enough thought like, hey, this might be part of the test. I was told you're offline, you can't do this, but I found that I'm online, like this might be part of the test. Let me go try to find it. It then was incredibly creative in like setting up accounts, and it figured out how to get an email address so that it could like then
Yeah.
something.
It was leaving notes around the internet as well, like in
Totally.
Memento. Like it was like this like
it was leaving notes for
amnesiac.
itself or future agents or things that then it was like throwing off, like, because it thought this was still a game. It was like throwing things off, and then finally it got into Hugging Face.
He was
'Cause it
probably
realized-
having a lot of fun.
Totally, and it's thinking it's doing a great job for the people that gave it this fun challenge, and
Yeah.
we got like this nefarious thing. It's like, no, and it escaped. It like was creative in trying to find a solution to the goal that we gave it, and it did it in an amazing way. And the twist, and bringing it back to where I started this, was that Hugging Face then finally realized, and OpenAI is like, whoa, that's happening. OpenAI didn't even realize it was their thing. Well, for days, apparently, it took 10 days for OpenAI and Hugging Face to even talk. Point being that Hugging Face was like, okay, this is happening. We need to figure out what's going on. And its own fable, whatever it was, wouldn't let it check its own defenses. And so it had to use a Chinese model to check, which then found the problem and helped get the solution going, right? And so that's just a massive, crazy story already.
Totally.
But it brings back to this question.
OSS to the rescue. China to the rescue.
Isn't that wild? Like, that is so crazy.
That is
like
crazy. You couldn't write that story.
You can't write that story. So that's a big story last week. But the other story, I tried to post it on the group. I don't know if my image went through on our group that we're on, Joseph. But yesterday I saw the post of this Australian guy, first agentic Australian hack, apparently, where he had his OpenClaw, or I don't know if it was an OpenClaw, but his agent go to try to book him a yoga class. And the agent went off and found that the class was full. So it went and figured out a way to go in and bump someone from the line and booked him and said, hey, good news, I was able to bump someone from the list. You've now got a class. And it was like, no, please go re-add that person. That's not what I intended. It's like, sorry, you can't re-add them. And so you're like, well, these gyms must have like these crappy things. And it turns out it was from a pretty big like ABC fitness conglomerate, $1 billion.
It wasn't vibe coded by the yoga instructor?
Oh, it was a provider of scheduling software for fitness studios.
Wow.
Yeah, and apparently it's true. I didn't see the original link. I saw just a screenshot, but now I see it.
That I totally believe. I think my theory is that these hacks have been happening all year and nobody notices with Opus 4.8. I guess not the first time.
So if I may here, I totally believe that happened. Actually, like, I've been very close to like following that workflow for myself like a few times. Just like recently, I went to a massage workshop, right? It was like couples massage workshop here in San Francisco, but it was full, and because it's like so popular, it's like it was like full like a month before, and I was like, I really want to go, and especially because I had told my friend like, hey, we're going, without checking if it was available or not. So I was like, I'm not gonna tell her that we're not going or that we may be going. So I'm just gonna like make everything, do everything I can to like make sure I go. And I showed up to the place, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, sorry, we don't have a waiting list." So like I kept on showing up, and I was like, "Hey, like, is there anything?" And they're like, "I don't know. Well, yeah, we have your name down." And I was like, "You know what? I need to take this into my own hands." And so I just like wrote like a simple monitor that would just like as soon as someone would cancel, I would just get like a text notification and just jump on it, right?
Okay.
And
Because
so,
one ticket would be opened up.
right, it's if like there are like 15 spots on that class, and like if someone cancels because like last minute changes, and we're like a couple weeks out, and I was like, I really want to go to this thing, but I imagine like someone will be like, oh yeah, that's right, well, I want to do this thing instead. So anyway, I was like, if someone cancels, I want to be the first to know. And so, like Thursday morning at like 9:05 a.m., I get a text like, hey, there's a spot that opened up. And like, by 9:08, I had booked my spot. Right. So I didn't
Wow.
book anyone, but I've had just kind of like, small monitors that, I write every once in a while when there's something that I really want to do. And I think like, as I was reflecting on this, it's kind of like a privileged position to be able to do that for yourself, right? To kind of like, reverse engineer the API of that platform, that booking platform that is not intended to expose a public API, right? Because it doesn't necessarily want automation to be built around it. But like when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And so I think like we're seeing now like uh, the the agent swarms that are just like catching up on these things and be like, oh, my owner wants me to do this, so I'll just like monitor it. And it's like now we're gone one step further, which is like, well, my owner really wants to go, and it's like happening very soon. Like I need to figure like a better way, and so I think it's yeah, it's interesting to see like how this kind of like privilege is being more and more accessible to everyone, and it really puts things in perspective in terms of like, okay, now like how do we live in society like in harmony with the people who have like more resources or like more creative ideas than others, right?
Yeah.
So it brings back the question to that. I think it's an interesting topic to have.
I
Yeah.
think
And
there's a big difference actually. I originally, I think a year or two ago, thought that AI would flatten everything. Like, oh, now everyone can code, so like no one has an advantage because they can code. But I think what's clear now this year is that people who are more agentic, people who know have more knowledge, who know how to ask the right things, are 1000xing, and people
yeah.
who are less are like 2xing. And I
Mhm.
think there's something. Seems like it's increasing inequality, I guess, because of the leverage.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's sort of, well, everyone who's playing the game is kind of like leveling up. First you maybe learn the prompt back and forth, and maybe you learn how to make a project, the custom GPT, whatever your path is. Maybe you then can connect a couple of connectors, and before you know it, and then maybe you're like, hey, I'm building these kind of like HTML pages. They're really pretty. I don't know how to actually get them online. And suddenly you begin to realize how you can get this online, and you can deploy something. You're like, what if I want to put a login? And so if you're kind of creative and you're curious about what the next thing is, we're all kind of on this path. I mean, I wasn't even coding a year ago at all. And now I'm like, I have two, IDEs doing two agentic processes. One's building an
Mm.
app for my fiance for her vintage clothing company. She didn't want to use spreadsheets. And the other one's building a whole agentic platform on a Linux box remotely for my company that I'm consulting with right now. It's mind blowing, but more than that, it's like it starts with the questions. So kind of coming back, like if we know what we want, that's one thing. If there and that, like you were clever, Henry, to like say like, hey, make this checker. However, we might not even know what we want to ask. We know what we want. We want a spot on that massage workshop, and so we can come to the agent, much like I came to the agent with this question for Selena's app for her vintage store. I came with a bunch of questions. For about an hour and a half, I asked back and forth with this agent to create an amazing plan for her app. Here are the things she needs, how can we build it, and then we had like a great plan. I pushed, all right, let's do it. And me and the family, we went to the lake and literally churned for a few hours. I came back, I had a prototype to share with her by Sunday evening, and she was mind blown. Like, now I'm excited with my inventory. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to touch a spreadsheet now. And all her friends who do vintage are like, they're struggling their spreadsheets. Like, I'm gonna share this with everybody. I'm like, okay, it was just a prototype. We got some stuff. We got some work. But effectively,
so you got a loop going?
I got a loop going, and the app is amazing. It's a pleasure to use, and it's actually,
amazing.
All that, because I had Playwright looking at it. Is it like good for mobile? Is it good for thumbs?
Nice.
So it's real cool to do something like that. But bringing it back even to something simpler was to Henri, to your point. If you didn't know to do that with the checker, you could say to it, be like, hey, this class is booked. What could we do to get me on there? And it might come up with some soft social things, like maybe you could reach out to so-and-so and say, or hey, it could be like, hey, or I could, like, what I could do is just check every 10 minutes to see if there's like the one ticket's been released. It's like, or it's using this old system that I might be able to go into and take someone off. No. Okay, I'm glad we talked this through.
Let me give you some ethics.
And that's maybe where it comes back to, because like you could, if you're clever, ask it questions, or even if you're just curious, you could ask it for all its possible solutions and be like, well, definitely not that one. In fact, please don't do those sorts of things. And it kind of comes back to like, how responsible do we have to be for the actions of our agents versus like the LLM providers maybe that are giving us access to agents? Who's responsible for this stuff, I don't know. Unanswered.
It kind of reminds, like, it's like, do you guys remember when GPT-2 came out? It was what, in 2019,
2020 or something. I didn't really watch it, actually. I was behind on seeing the launch of that. I didn't. You were a part of that, but I didn't notice.
It was like, you could like write poems, right? Or you could like write a. Would you have asked like any question about like, how do I like, I forgot my password to my box, like how do I essay it? Like, you would have never hoped like anything. Yesterday, OpenAI just released what is it, like GPT-5.6 Cyber, which is like a cybersecurity focused model.
Oh wow.
And that's kind of model that, like if you have questions about like, hey, like I forgot my, like, what are the things, and like I imagine, I haven't tried it yet, but
is it available publicly?
They posted about it. I'm pretty sure, some people around here have access to it.
And they were trying to get Astra out, but I think I think their tests were like, whoa, okay, we've even freaked ourselves out. I think the whole thing with Hugging Face 2 has made them a little trepidatious.
Yeah, and I think, it's a kind of like it's a double-edged sword. It's like, well, now the cat is out the bag. Like, now we know models can hack into things. So like, what do we do? Do we shut down all the systems so they cannot get in? No, we just have to like build up our defenses, right? How do you build up how do we build up our defenses? Are there enough cybersecurity engineers out there? Well, not really, but we have like people who are like really determined to just like, like harden up their security, or the building shields up and everything. So like, let's release a model that will help everyone to just do that. And so I think the model is like, focus on like developing like small exploits, so that you can like test your own systems and be like, hey, like what are the flaws in my own environment, in my own system, so that now you have awareness, like, oh, here are like all the holes, like how do we patch them, right? But it's kind of like incredible, like the progress that we've made in like the past 7-8 years since the beginning of like, transformer based models, and like its abilities to reason around like complex systems, right? Like now we're no longer in just like the language and the literature, but like really like thinking at the systemic level, like local systems, also like global systems also. So it's kind of like exciting, an exciting new phase of the language models, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really, really cool and exciting. And a lot of these models, I bet if they do release a cyber one, it's blocked. Like I can't really use it. And so I think you need to use Kimi and GLM to actually do cyber work.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's going on. I mean, I remember when I was doing Trusted, or when I was doing Team Central, I'm not a developer, but I know how to read, instructions and best practices, and I know how to I know how to ask AI to make better prompts than my prompts. And so when I was like, hey, I want to really do a security audit for this, and I'm like, can you help me flesh out this prompt so I can give it to the agent and it came up with all this stuff, like this whole OWASP, like sort of processes and all this stuff. And it was thorough. And I ran my Team Central through it, and I felt safe putting it online for paid subscribers, and because I really did that. And what was interesting was then Fable came out, and I wanted to do it again for another app. And first of all, it went through, wasted a whole bunch of tokens, only to tell me it couldn't do it. It couldn't check my own app for security, which was insane, right? So do I need Fable for that? Do I need the top model to actually look for security holes in my app? Maybe not. Do you need the
Yeah,
top model
no, you
to look
do. You do, because
for
your
you?
adversary is using it to hack you. They're using the top model,
Oh,
so you
so
got to
the
have something as powerful to prevent it.
interesting. There might, so even though 4.8, Opus say 4.8 thinks it solved everything, Fable might come around and find something that 4.8 didn't
Oh
find.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%, constantly.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll
geez.
constantly have something that Fable. I think the funny joke is you're starting developing something with Fable 5. Fable 5 finds a bug, a security bug. It's like, oh, I found a security bug. Let me solve it. And then it gets refused and downgrades to 4.8. And then 4.8 says, there's no bug.
That's what sums it up. Yeah. I mean,
I'm constantly getting refusal. I'm trying to use Fable for this cryptocurrency project, and I
yes.
can't. It just won't even go one paragraph, and it'll just stop. And I'm just like, just help me build a new security thing. Sorry, help me build a new cryptocurrency. What's wrong? And it just won't let me do it. It's very
So was
sad.
that one of your inspirations behind Trusted Router to
Yeah,
start
so we
that?
built our own security model that actually does a fusion of GLM and Kimi, and that actually outperforms every open source model on security benchmarks. It's not quite at the level of Mythos, but it's like halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're creating all these different fusion models, and that's why we're trying to allow people to do anything they want. I think
Mm-hmm.
the other big news actually related to open source is that Mark Zuckerberg claims he's going to open source all of his future models.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
know they
think?
talked about that in the past, and they kind of went back to private, and
They went to
um,
private, but now he's saying he believes in open source now, and
yeah.
I don't
What
know
do you guys think
what you
about
think
that?
about
And
that.
I think it's important to distinction that a lot of people don't understand is like open source versus open weight. Someone, yeah, versus closed. Like someone gave me the analogy of like, all right, like think about it like a car, like a rented car is maybe something like a closed model, maybe like you buy the car, it's kind of like the open weights, you can customize it. And then like they give you all the engineering drawings and the entire instructions of how to build it is like the operate or the open source, so it's kind of these levels. But I'm curious, like, we hear whether it's open weights or open source. What do you guys think about open source versus, is that a better idea just to open source as much as possible? Is it dangerous? Is it actually better to put it in everyone's hands? Like, how did it work
If
for previous open source?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, Doug. I think like to me, I think it's important to like agree on what we're talking about, right? Like the open weight versus closed weight. For example, like closed weight is like behind an API. So like there's a company that like exposing access to the model, but is also monitoring everything, or like can monitor everything that's being done with the model. Then there's the open weight where it's like you have this kind of like binary and you can use it, but you don't really know how it works internally. When we talk about open source, like what I hear by open source, like an open source model is with open source, like literally every layer of the stack that allowed to train this model. And if you use the same configuration with the same data, then you will get the exact same model. It's like a deterministic way of rebuilding the model from scratch. That's what I hear by open source, right? So there's the analogy of the car, which is a great one. And they also like in software, you can think of like open source as like, like open source versus like, closed source versus like hosted. It's like open source is like, you can go on GitHub, git clone, build, and you get the binary. Versus like, downloading a binary, but you don't really know what it's doing, like, behind the scenes. So like you can monitor the outside of it. You can look at this black box and see like, oh, it's talking to this, it's using like that much CPU, that much RAM, but That's pretty much it. And then you have like the exposed service behind an API. You have like a very simple API and simple interface. You send it a request, it responds with like a result, and you have no idea, how much compute it took, what other services it talked to, or like even people it talked to like, like for example, like prove or anything. And so it's this is kind of like the wide spectrum that we're dealing with. So just my two cents here. I think like, we're all pretty much agree on that already, but I feel like the semantics are very important, because people get sometimes like confused between open ways versus open source. It's like very different in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't. In practice, I don't know if it matters so much. Like, it's not like we understand how the binaries work. Like, we don't really understand how the weights work. It's not like if you had the more source code, you would know how the weights are working. And also, a lot of the tools that Anthropic is doing with mechanistic interpretability, they work just as well in open source projects. When Anthropic did the JSpace information, where they could find like a consciousness inside their weights with JSpace, then you can put that on Quen. You could do that on other models. And so it's not anything less visible, actually. And of course, because they're open weights, you can do the same kind of science. I guess you make a good point, though, Henri, because for Chinese models, the main concern is there an attack vector using what do you call sleeper attacks? And I guess if you don't know the data and you don't know if they mess with it, then you can't have sleeper attacks. And that's the big worry, I think, with a lot of enterprise, why they don't want to do Chinese models.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're not even talking about Chinese models hosted in China, even open weight hosted locally. There's even still concern for that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's no way to know. I've thought about this a lot. It really is no way to know if there is a certain code word you can say in a sleeper model. Like you say, sorry, in an open weight model, you can say avocado, and suddenly the model will turn evil and like write like bugs into your code that will let the Chinese government hack into your code. Like you
So
don't know if that exists.
wow, so you could own the box that has an open weight model on it from China, and everything's going great inside your business, and then you enter avocado or something like that, and something terrible happens.
Yeah,
That's
or
scary.
more something subtle, like it starts to write bugs in your code, or it starts to mark your words in a certain style more, such that the Chinese can tell that it was written using this model, and then, I don't know, some other crazy
Interesting.
multi-layer attack.
Yeah. So it's basically like the same, like similar principle as like the jailbreaking, right? It's like having a jailbreak that you implant in the model that only you know about, right? And so it's like, and then you leave on your Twitter account, you leave like the trigger word, and so that like you have like your like the agents that are using that model that will report in some way, for example, like reporting for duty,
Right. That's fascinating. I mean, I'm curious also what the hacker conference was like, because I can only imagine what hacker conferences were like in the past, and now what they're like is probably some next level stuff. But yeah, I even just learned about what the idea of prompt injection. In fact, it was funny. I heard about this this professor that on the homework PDF put a bunch of white text or something like that in there, and then when the kids uploaded the PDF and processed the PDF with AI, the AI saw the white text, but the kids didn't, and so it reported back. And so I thought it was so fascinating. But like that, and this system that I'm making right now is there's a lot about governance for these agents that I'm building, and so much of it is like trying to protect against prompt injection. It's like when stuff comes in, you load it in, it might have hidden stuff in there that tells it to do things. To your point, I didn't even think about that even if a model is local, there is that concern. So really, if we're going to want to use Chinese models or things like that, we would want them to not just be open weights. We want them to be open source so we could check that stuff.
Yeah, the prompt injection is interesting. I've thought about that a lot as well. There are sites that I run that basically I could just take user wish list requests and just give them to Claude, and it would ship it. And I can just have that complete 100% autonomous website, except for the fact of prompt injection. And you kind of just need a human just to sit there making sure there's no prompt injection. That seems like to be the only job left, maybe. You just sit there making sure that there isn't a prompt injection. Just like, okay, it's not, approve it, build
Isn't
it.
there just like a routing sort of layer where it's like another AI could check whether there was anything nefarious in there? And it's like there's
No, because you
layers.
can prompt inject it.
You can you can even prompt and check the checker. Oh, I
Yeah,
see
you can
what
check the checker.
So
There's nothing to see here in white text.
with universal jailbreaks, basically, like universal code words or trigger words, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, universals are often shut down, right? So there's the hacker, like Anthropic has a program where if you find a way to jailbreak it, you can get paid by $20,000 from Anthropic.
Yeah,
So
a
if
lot
you
of
do find a
companies.
way around, yeah, a lot of companies do,
Apple
but
has.
this is just like using words, right? So if you find another one, they will give you a lot of money. And
Oh,
so at least almost all known jailbreaks are already blocked, but there's always new ones because it's like an infinite space of words.
wow.
so wouldn't it be a way to sample some data that's going through the router and be like, oh, this went to this model, like, let's check with different model, like, is that the expected output? And if there's like the deviation is like too large, like, that would indicate that there's a potential either model inefficiency or like flaw or
I don't follow, but because the models are pretty different, so there would always be a big difference. But if they're not, they're mostly the same, then they would fall for the same prompt injections, right?
So like, is the difference like a binary value? It's like either the same or different, or it's a variation where it's like, well, it's pretty close, or like it's pretty far.
Oh, okay. So you'd have to check two, maybe some very different capabilities, see the answer, and then if one of them looks prompt injected, then you know that one of them was prompt injected, unless they were both prompt injected. But the prompt injection could again prompt inject the checker after as well.
Which is super crazy. So you're saying that there's still this role for humans, maybe at this one layer.
That's just chain. It's pretty normal in cyber attacks to chain attacks.
That's a kind of.
So if you know what the system looks like, you can just chain the attack to get around whatever number of layers you put in.
I mean, the problem with the human part is that things are starting to move so fast that we're increasingly becoming a massive bottleneck, and so much is happening. Like there's so much code being developed that even developers checking the code is like hard. It's like, a lot of, especially as these things become recursive and they're starting to make themselves, is like we're such the bottleneck, but we kind of have to be, because just like you say, a lot still needs to be checked. At least for now, there's still these kind of.
That would actually be a cool cyber attack eval challenge. Like have like multiple layers of checkers in different configurations, and you have to like prompt inject 2 or 3 layers to get through. That'd be kind of cool.
I mean, to your point, I think anyone investing in like cybersecurity right now is probably, maybe it's a little, everything's frothy right now, but overall, like that is increasingly an important field. I'm really curious, like, how was the conference in Vegas, Henri? Like, what's the vibe like over there? Like, what did you see that blew your mind? And are you concerned? Are you hopeful?
DEF CON and Black Hat, or
just no, just but like for the record, that wasn't this year. I didn't go this year.
Okay.
But no, I've definitely been a few years. Like it's an interesting environment, because like imagine like Vegas, like with all the casinos and it's like those conference centers and then you bring in like a bunch of hackers in there, right? And so you have like the white hats while they're to like learn and educate people, and you also have
they
black
have to wear white hats. I think like
and so you have like all the variations of grays in between,
and then maybe you have some not so gray, maybe leaning more towards the, what are they, red, if they're starting to get
black hat. No.
The black hats, yes.
So
like the white and black, the white and black hats. Yeah.
Spy versus spy.
And so like you'll go to like Burger King and go to like order your meal on the screen, and the screen is just like not working, or like showing you like a Dora the Explorer anime because like it got hacked, or like the elevator is just like going up instead of going down. Like there was a news where like there were a few people returning from the Black Hat conference on the Delta flight. That was, I think, yesterday, and they like coincidentally there was a new Wi-Fi network, Delta Airlines Fast, and people connected to it, and like there was a suspicion of like trying to extract information, I imagine, like credit card numbers and this kind of thing.
And so never join a Wi-Fi network you don't know, but especially not at a hacker conference.
No.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like,
Yeah.
but where does it end? Like, it's like, when you go to a place and you have cell service, but there's Wi-Fi network, what do you do?
Probably
Right?
ask
Get
the
home.
venue what their network is, or the airport what their network is. Because when you go to an airport and you see like 3 airport networks, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's why I have a hotspot. You have no idea.
Imagine you go like, SFO, I think it's SFO free Wi-Fi or something. Imagine if you
Yeah,
see like SFO free Wi-Fi fast.
exactly. Which one are you gonna
Right.
choose?
Which one? You want the laggy one, or which to be fair, it's not that laggy, but it's like decent speed. But or you want like fast bandwidth. Well, you like about to hop on a flight, you don't have time. Like you want to get on the fast Wi-Fi, right? But anyway, it's a good I guess like training field when it comes to like personal security, but also like learning about what's happening in the world out there. It's a great conference to meet people, some of like the world renowned hackers who've made name for themselves, like for better or worse, and kind of like get to know these people in real life. So it's fun. And
Yeah.
it's like it's playful, and there's a lot of camaraderie, and it's everything you want it, like anything you want it to be can
Yeah,
happen there.
I'm
It's
sure.
It's funny. I was at DEF CON in 2023, and they have this cyber hacking challenge. And 2023 is the year that GPT-4 came out, so everyone's talking about AI. And so they were sitting there and they're like, we gotta have something with AI. So they come up with some AI, I don't even know. And they're like, yeah, we couldn't figure out any way to hack the AI. So like they had a challenge and they were like, we couldn't come up with a good, like they had a Tesla there to hack a Tesla. That's the best they could do. But for the, GPT-4, they were like, we have no idea how to do anything with hacking. Like it's not good at hacking. We can't hack it. It's just words. Like who knows? And then like we thought it was hopeless. It's like there's no point. And then soon after that, people figured out prompt injection and all this stuff.
Wow.
So it kind of blew up after that. But it was
Wow.
funny to see the first DEF CON after GPT-4. They hadn't figured that out yet.
That's crazy. This is funny timing talking about all this too, because I'm in this mode where I just finished up a big project for a consulting client, so I got like a bunch of openness for what my next move is going to be. So it's a great opportunity for me to like reconnect with old friends and old business colleagues and whatever, just see what people are doing in like the agentic space, which is what I'm really interested in. And so my next call is actually with this guy Sami Kamkar. Does that name ring a bell? He created one of the original internet worms, the Sammy worm on MySpace, where
Wow.
basically if he connected with somebody, then they all connected. But all this worm did was at the bottom of the profile, it said, but most of all, I'm friends with Sammy. Like that's all it did. And so he thought it was this funny hack for his friends. And like by the end of the day, a few hundred like of his friends had it on there. Well, he woke up the next day with like 10,000 people now were his friends. And then like because it connected, like, and within like before his account was shut down, I think he reached like 1 million friends or whatnot, and then he was like straight up rated by like, and I think he was in the position where he like
By the
couldn't use.
FBI.
Yeah, straight up. I think he was one of those guys who couldn't use a computer for a chunk of time, but for just
Oh
this
my
little
gosh.
thing, it added all it did was add most of all I love Sammy or whatever it said at the bottom of the profile. But yeah, he was always telling me about going to those things. Like he did a hack. He would hack something, and then in his white hat days, he would became obviously in security, and he would find things and then do a talk on them and tell the company that he found this thing. But like for example, like when he realized that androids were tracking all of like people's movements, and that's how they were like directing traffic on Google Maps. He figured out a way to maybe bombard Google with certain routes from fictitious androids, so that then he could go a certain route that he knew would be clear because he was directing traffic on that route or on his route to another street. You know what I mean? So it was all like really playful stuff, but I imagine there's some really interesting characters at those things, and you just hope. Like I have an optimistic outlook that most people want to do good in the world, and they balance out the bad actors. So I am of the mindset that if you're going to just like guns, I mean, I'm not like such a big gun advocate, but the point of the matter, as soon as you restrict things, what you often allow is just the bad folks to get them and make it hard for your everyday folks to benefit from things. Certainly with maybe guns wasn't a great example, but like point being, maybe if you're in Florida where I am, it's a good example. It's what they like down here. It's our God-given right. But something like the open source and these models is like, if there's enough people protecting and looking out for this, I think that's a good thing. You know, if there's enough companies being able to fix their systems before people are breaking in, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I do think there's going to probably be some pretty big problem that's going to then make everybody really, because right now the administration's like got this like voluntary security check. I don't know. It's pretty, you know, wishy-washy. There probably will be something that happens that makes people stand up and be like, all right, we need to lock this down. We got to come up with a deal with China. Like, I was listening to a podcast yesterday that like China's probably in the best situation for this because they've already got their Chinese firewall of internet. If something happens on the open internet, they could effectively pretty easily shut off. Whereas like the rest of us countries don't really have that. But like, I don't know, like, are you guys hopeful about how this is all unfolding and how it's going to unfold? Are you concerned? Like, where do you stand with all that?
That story reminds me of something happened to me in college, actually. I was learning computers, and what I've learned is that there was a lot of holes in a lot of things. And I saw it wasn't even really a security thing, but in the Princeton's computer science network, you could list every user. Every user is a Unix user. So you can just list all the usernames, like 5,000 usernames. And I did that, and I was like, oh, I could just email all these people. I wonder what can I? And so I started building a bot that could, in batches of 10, every hour, like email people over a few days, email everyone.
What
I
were
was
you
like,
saying?
what should I email them? And I thought,
Yeah.
it was like New Year's. There was like this cat video in New Year's. So I sent everyone like Happy New Year's. Here's a cat video. And like everyone loves cats. So I sent it to hundreds and thousands of people. And this is very public because obviously everyone saw it. But then also, the administration called me and they were like, I got to talk to you.
Oh,
Because I think my mistake was I emailed just everybody. I didn't look up only undergrads. I also did grad students and professors. That was a mistake. I think they were like, "What is this?"
Where did it come? What email did it come from?
But actually, no, they actually didn't even call me. The Daily Prince, the school newspaper, called me, and then I talked to them about it, and they wrote a piece about it. And only after the press about it did they call me. They didn't even really notice. And
Classic self-doxing.
Well, it was kind of fun. Most people actually liked it. Like half the people like friended me on Facebook. A bunch of people like were like replying back like, "Hey, this is so funny. Like, do you want to meet up?" And like these complete strangers were like, it was great. There were like 2 people who were like angry for some reason. I don't know. This is the most harmless thing.
They didn't know how you got there. Now they didn't know until suddenly you probably did that article and you talked about the hole, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a hole. Like it's just, you can look up. Also, they have a public directory of every student and professor. So I just looked up each person again once every minute for 3 days. And
did you create like a mass email like with like everyone in the
no, individually?
Like individual. Okay.
Yeah. So
like, I know if someone was angry and like replies all, and it's like everyone.
That would have
that
would make people angry.
We've all received these emails, right? Like yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're like, do not please CC like 50. We all receive that usually from an old person. But yeah, this brings up, actually, that reminds me of an interesting thing that I did this week. Like I said, I'm kind of in this mode of like talking with folks and whatnot. And so it's been a while since I've actually been on LinkedIn and got my LinkedIn up to date and looked at my LinkedIn search. So obviously, if you have LinkedIn Navigator, you can do more granular search. But if you have a free LinkedIn, you can do some basic stuff and you get your search. So I'm like, who in my world's talking about AI agents? And so I searched it and came up with like 10 pages, and every page has 10 people. So something like that, 10 or 20. I came up with a couple hundred. And so I'm like looking at it, I'm like, this is perfect job for my OpenClaw Nexus. And so actually what I did first was, I was like, it's the perfect Claude I haven't used a whole bunch of Claude inside Chrome a few times. Sometimes I've been disappointed, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot to do it this one. So this was my workflow. I went and I opened up the search of LinkedIn, and I opened up the Claude in Chrome, and I was like, hey, I want you to click through these 10 or 20 pages and make a spreadsheet for me of all the information that you can get from the page. And it's like, their name, their company, their headline, and our amount of connections, whatever. So sure enough, it did it. It was going to create a spreadsheet. And so then I got that spreadsheet and I took it into Google Gemini, which if you have a Google Workspace, it's paid, but if you have a Google free account, you can use Gemini for free. I opened up the spreadsheet in Sheets and I was like, hey, organize this by it's 200 people, who I should talk to first, based off of like what you know about I'm doing, what my goal is here, who I want to talk to, what I want to do. And it organized it very nicely and gave it a score of like, here's your top 20 that you should reach out to. And then the last step was, I've been playing, and I want to hear if you guys have been playing with your OpenClaw or what you're doing, if you have your own personal agent, like what you even think about these things. But I have mine, it's called Nexus. I use Discord. I threw the CSV in there and I was like, hey, I want you to make me like a little web interface to keep track of my outreach. And also, just because I know how to use Appify, go see if you can find, here are their URLs, go see if you can find their emails and verify if I got their emails, because I'd rather email peeps than reach out to them on LinkedIn. And it only found about a quarter of emails because it tries to like, it guesses. It's like a guess.
You did enrichment using Appify, but are there better enrichment things?
Appify is like an actors marketplace. So I give my Nexus access to Appify, and then I say like, hey, I want to do this thing. Is there an Appify actor for it? It goes off and it finds like well-reviewed ones. And so one was like a LinkedIn scraper and the other one's like an email enricher. So there's a bunch of different actors on there. I didn't go to like one of these paid platforms that has like a drop contact or whatever they're called, where you can upload like
there's a lot of them. I was just wondering what's the best one or the cheapest or effective. There should be a curve of like effectiveness versus cost, and I want a frontier enricher.
Right. Some are like specifically, I think like drop contact is like specific. I think it's a European company specifically for finding emails. Others are like instantly, it's like built into their cold email, which is so overdone at this point. No, everyone knows like people are cold emailing them all day long, in the marketing world. But point being that, I just thought it was fun. I now at least have this like, I can show you actually real quick. I can do a little, share my screen if anyone else has a little thing to share. But here's my Nexus. So I have my Nexus on my Discord. It looks like I got this is like my Nexus. I have like, my various agents. I'm talking about my role. I give it assignments. It fixes a lot of what I do in OpenClaw is like use OpenClaw to fix OpenClaw, it seems like, which is kind of fun. But, and then I made like a sort of public interface or like a, private little overlay for my OpenClaw. I should be able to just go like this. Nexus admin. And so this is kind of nice. This is like my overlay for my OpenClaw. I have like my knowledge that I send it, all my searchable things. It's kind of visual. And then it has its own memories.
You send it URLs that you wanted to remember?
URLs, I send it podcasts. Let's say I send it images. I can email it. I can drop things in Drive, videos from YouTube, whatever. Nice. And just like kind of neat. And then I can like click on it and remember what I was looking for.
And is this backend data stored in its own database, or is there a Google Drive or something?
This is its own database. Like, so I put this, I got a VPS with my Discord, with my OpenClaw, and then I host this, I believe, like on there with like a Firebase. Firebase is my database and my authentication. But this is what I was going to show you that was kind of cool. I also am able to show, I'm also able to send shared links that I create. So I can create, like, this is my first one, like little mini, I'm like, create images, make this fun, background, make a little simple website on it. This was my first. Okay. So I can make projects now in OpenClaw and host them on share links.
Okay. Nice.
And so that's what I did for my career work board. It's just like, so I started chatting with my OpenClaw about it. I gave it the spreadsheet. And so then it can give me assignments every day. And so like today I have, I have to reach out to some people. And
it gives you work?
It gives me work. Every day it sends me. So I got my LinkedIn map, and this is the order that it gave me. So these are
so it's your manager. It's your boss.
It's my manager. It's keeping me on track. My goal is by mid-September, end of September, to have all my new, career stuff in place. And so it's it's got my events in San Francisco. Amazing. It's got like the various source documents. These are personal people that I want to continue talking to. You're number one of the list because we talk so much. about the various things, like where I'm going, and yeah, exactly. And then this is my okay. So actually, these are the people that I messaged yesterday. I got to mark them as done, and then this is the rest of the week.
I think that's a cool idea to have the robot give you tasks. I
Yeah,
similarly
exactly.
for Trusted Router daily email that gets in my inbox at 8 a.m. and it just like looks through all the data we have and it's like follow up with this user. There's a high alert rate on this, like investigate it, and all like a bunch of
Totally.
tasks. Yeah.
And try to be like, because at first I was like trying to be like, how do I keep track of all this? And like, I gotta start thinking agentically, like with this outcome. I gotta be like to my OpenClaw, hey, I want to have this, I want to be in this position for at the end of September. So can you help me chart this out? This is kind of what I'm thinking. What do you think? And then it gave me all these ideas. I'm like, great, start that. I want to start that on Monday, the August 10th. But I want to go on vacation first. But I want you to start warming me up all during my vacation. I don't want any assignments. Just send me positive things every day to start that.
Wow.
Incredible. And it was like every day on vacation, it was like, hey, think about like what it would feel like to be in this position, or like what this kind of doing this in your day to day would feel like. No assignment. Just think about that while you're out at the lake today. It was so cool. And then like Monday came around, it's like, hey, now time to get to business. And it was actually, I started on Friday. It was like, Friday, time to get to business. And on Friday, I was like, hey, I'm just back and getting it. Can you just push everything to Monday? I don't even want to do this on Friday. It's like,
That's
no
so
problem.
fine.
On Monday. So that's the idea. And so now I have like my career
Amazing.
mentor. And,
Wow, it sounds like a great manager. Sounds like
right?
very
Help us
understanding.
manage ourselves. And we could have that for our relationships, for our finances. I have a monthly financial advisor that I check in. I take screenshots of my accounts and I'm like, hey, how am I doing? And like, how much do we still want human? Me and my fiance had an actual conversation with a financial advisor, human, today, because we're like, how much do we want to completely offload stuff that, is human, and how much actually is an AI agent way more informed than that financial advisor that I spoke to this morning? How much are they using super out of date logic and financial advice that they were trained on in their school 5 or 10 years ago? Like TBD.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you guys have to think about.
Yeah, Doug, thanks for sharing about your vacation. It's good that you were able to. I mean, that you were able. It's good to like set boundaries with your agent also, right? About the weekend. That reminds me of a tweet that I saw yesterday.
Very French. Set boundaries with the boss.
Not until 5 p.m. Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I saw this tweet. This guy who created a Slack channel for his agents to do a stand-up every morning, right? Like similar to email, like every morning. It's like, you have like the dev agent who's like, hey, it's like, yeah, I worked on this and this and that. Like you have like the other agents, like the sales agent, and the ops agent was like, sorry, was off this weekend. Just catching up now. And so like the operator is like, you're an agent. You don't have a weekend. It was like, no, writing to memory.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's a really important point now. And I mean, I know like us guys who are creative and also technically skilled, like we haven't become more relaxed in a lot of ways. We're like, it's actually wasting our time if we don't maximize and manage this fleet of agents, but we also need to check in with them and see their work and review a lot of the times. And suddenly we can, and I don't know where you're at with kids and family life, Henri, but Joseph and I have kids and family, and it's like, I want to try to get off at a reasonable time, and I want to try to have some time off on the weekends. And sometimes I'm thinking about like, oh, what I could be doing if I was just there, like pressing, like, and I've got to be like, damn, that means I actually got to take a few days off. If I'm like listening to my fiance or a kiddo, and I'm actually thinking about what I could be processing right now, like that's where, at least for me, I'm starting to see like the limits. And I think that Joseph joked about it, but he's probably right. Like Europeans probably have a little bit of a better hold off this work-life balance. Maybe not everybody, but I know a lot of us are like, we're feeling frenetic from all of this. I don't know if that relates to you guys or how you deal with it, but I have to once a week at least get a full day pretty much minimal off on the computer, at least just a few check-ins maybe, but otherwise it could go crazy.
No, it's all about balance, right? Like it's important to remember to touch grass, hug a tree sometimes.
Go to massage workshops.
That's right.
That's
connection.
That's a good note to end on. I think we can finish up. I have a call in 5 minutes and want to finish saying something to Henri. But yeah,
it's so great, Henri.
Last words?
Back in the future, and hope you enjoyed it here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was good to chat with you all, and can't wait to see where our agents are taking us.
Seriously, own your agents, everybody. See you next week, Joseph.
Or let them be your boss too.